All right, welcome back. So on August 8th, 2022, former Houston police officer Matthew Valdez was found innocent of criminally negligent homicide. He had struck a black Cadillac as he approached a stop sign at the intersection of Darien Street and Lay Road in Northeast Houston. And a lot of people were surprised, I think, when it shows, I think it was Walter Cooper was the driver's name who got hit by the officer, and he was killed in the accident. And they went to trial. I think the officer had to resign in January of 2021. And people wonder, well, why did he resign? Okay, so here's what happens. You get involved in an incident as a Houston police officer specifically. IAD is going to come talk to you. Well, they have to give you 72 hours notice, and they give you your letter and what you're being accused of.
48-hour notice.
Oh, is that 48-hour notice?
Yeah, 48-hour notice. Yeah.
Okay, 48-hour notice. And then...
I figured you would have had that down.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm thinking 21A under the Texas Rules of Civil Procedure gives you 72 hours.
Oh.
So under the Texas Rules of Civil Procedure, you get 72 hours, HPD 48. I got it, okay.
It's part 143.
I know.
Code of Criminal Procedure.
Thank you very much.
All right, I'm sorry.
Okay, so they're going to, he probably knew within 24 hours they were going to accuse him of criminally negligent homicide. And so he called an attorney, probably not a union lawyer. And who knows? I don't know. I haven't talked to them about this, but in other cases involving officers where they contact a non-union attorney, first thing the lawyer tells him to do is resign. Just turn in your resignation, go away. Because if you resign and you refuse to answer IAD's questions, it's not insubordination.
Yeah.
It doesn't go on your TCOL F5 report. Mm-hmm. It just goes as a resignation, right? But then I think the department tries to make it a resignation in lieu of termination or something like that.
Certainly.
And then you have to appeal it to the State Office of Administrative Hearings, blah, blah, blah. Long story short, you don't get insubordination on your F5.
Mm-hmm. So separation.
So then it won't be a dishonorable discharge from the department, right? Because there's untruthfulness and I think it's insubordination.
Untruthfulness and insubordination, or a crime.
Yeah, or crime, yeah. Are the two things that'll get you a dishonorable discharge. But
that's convicted of a crime.
Yeah, right. So one of the facts that they left out of the story I noticed is that the person that the officer hit, who I think it's Walter Cooper, I think is his name, was 3 times over the legal limit drunk.
A small factor.
Yeah, he was like 0.25 or 24 or something like that.
Wow.
And so when the officer went to trial, or when the former officer went to trial, the judge, I think, gave a directed verdict, from what I understand.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And so what that means is the judge never even let the jury hear the case, or he didn't let the jury make the decision about the case. So when the state closed its portion of the case, right, because you have the prosecutor's side and the defense side, right? One of the things a defense attorney will do at the finish of the prosecutor's case, or the close of the prosecutor's case in chief, is they'll ask the court for a directed verdict. In other words, the prosecution has not given sufficient evidence to the jury or the court for it to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that the defendant committed the alleged crime. And in this case, it would be the criminally negligent homicide. Well, how often do officers drive, say, 90 miles an hour in a 35 mile an hour zone? Well, it depends. If you're responding to an assist the officer call, if you're responding to an assault in progress, a robbery in progress, a burglary in progress, a home invasion. And in this instance, this officer was on his way to back up an officer who was asking for help. Mm-hmm. And he was, obviously speeding through the neighborhood, but I don't think the state could overcome the issue of whether or not Mr. Cooper contributed to his part of the crash. It's called contributory negligence. Mm-hmm. If he contributed to the circumstance himself by being so drunk that he was unable to determine if the intersection was clear before proceeding into it. Because if I'm not mistaken, Cooper had a stop sign and Valdez did not have a stop sign. Because, not every intersection has 4 stop signs in the city. So as the officer was going through the intersection, he had the right of way. Mm-hmm. Okay. So theoretically speaking, it wouldn't have mattered if Valdez was going 1,000 miles an hour.
Yeah.
I mean, if you have the right of way, you have the right of way. Okay. So Cooper is 3 times the legal limit, drunk off his butt, driving through an intersection, does not have the right of way to enter the intersection, and gets hit by a police officer who's, traveling through the same intersection and has the right of way because, from what I understand, he didn't have a stop sign. Mm-hmm. I'm still trying to verify that, but when I looked at Google Maps, it did not appear to have a stop sign at that in the direction the officer was traveling. So, if you looked at it from a civil point of view, the negligence would clearly lie with Cooper because he failed to yield the right of way, leaving a stop sign. Okay, and
it doesn't matter how fast the other person's going.
Not technically under the law, no.
No.
Okay. So then, how is it he was ever indicted for criminally negligent homicide is beyond me. How is it the department ever thought it would be a good idea to charge the officer with criminally negligent homicide is beyond me. It's decisions like this that you can tell are purely political decisions. Mm-hmm. This was a purely political internal affairs decision. And like in other videos we've talked about.
Well, the DA involved in it as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. But I don't think the DA was the one who probably pushed for the charge. I could almost guarantee you it was the department's internal affairs division, somebody in the command staff who pushed for it. And I don't know. That's how it happened. Because I have found most DAs, once they've been there longer than, 6 months to a year, see such horrible stuff come through their office. They become kind of ambivalent about everything, so, and they will ask the officer, do you want me to press charges or not? Like you'll talk to them on the phone and they'll ask you, do you want me to press charges or not? No. Okay. Charges declined.
Yeah.
Put my name on it. Click. Because they're not invested emotionally
certainly
in any of these phone calls that they get from any police department about charges. So I really don't think it's the DA. I really do believe it was the department.
Could be.
And that should tell the department or the, people who work there now, like we've talked about in other videos, this irrational fear that officers have, or which I'm going to stop using that term. I think it's a rational fear.
Very rational. Yes.
This rational fear that officers have of their command staff is legitimate. They'll charge you with a crime you didn't commit. So blatantly didn't commit that a judge will have to issue a directed verdict in your favor when they try to take you to trial. It becomes absurd.
Well, that to me, that's why I was thinking more the DA should have been. Why didn't the DA say no? Why did the DA say no? Because no, this doesn't meet the statute. It also, he's a police officer. He's responding. All that these barriers they had to protect police officers.
Because it was a police officer.
That's what I mean. That's exactly it. Yeah. The DA could have said, they've said no to me a lot. Okay. Yeah. No, we're not taking that charge. They have no qualms about saying no.
Yeah.
Believe me. If they didn't want to charge the guy, they wouldn't have.
Or they could have.
Or run him to the grand jury.
Or they could have exercised prosecutorial discretion later on and said, we're going to dismiss them.
And there's the old saying, you can indict a ham sandwich.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, but to do so, you have to lie.
Well, you have to
embellish. You have to describe it one way in a one-sided way. And the officer was responding to an emergency call, and the guy was 3 times the legal limit in alcohol. The other guy, and he didn't. He's supposed to be covered. And here's the bad part, folks. Here's the part. Now, police officers, when you're out there, you're needing the police quickly. Police officers will drive a lot slower.
Not so quickly.
Yeah, exactly. A lot slower.
Yeah, you're going to get that not so quick response.
Yeah, exactly. Not so quick, because this guy had to quit and then had to put out legal fees. And then by the grace of God, they had a judge that didn't just get mad and make some, he actually went with what the law said.
Now, here's the thing I want people to know, because this I've experienced.
About the judges?
Yes.
Yes.
The only judges I've ever seen, I'm just one lawyer in one city with one law practice, so what I know is only what I've seen. It's Democrat judges who are willing to grant directed verdicts when they know the facts aren't there, when they know that what is happening in their courtroom is wrong. It is Democrats who will grant a directed verdict. If this had been a Republican judge, I guarantee you it would have gone to the jury. Guaranteed it. Because Republicans are ballless, gutless, disappointing, spineless pieces of shit sometimes when they're sitting up there on the bench and they don't have the balls to do what's right.
Except for you, Your Honor. The one who's standing in front of him next time.
Oh, shit,
We didn't mean you.
I'm a lawyer.
Yeah.
I mean, I shouldn't maybe not be too strong with my verbiage there. I'll try to reel it in. But when it comes to criminal cases, Republican judges will just throw you to the wolves and really don't do their job, right? They really don't. And it really pisses me off because, Republican judges are all about law and order. And I'm talking about criminal. I'm not talking about civil. I'm not talking about family. I'm talking about criminal court judges specifically, because those are the judges, in my opinion, that really matter. All this civil lawsuit nonsense, you could take it to the appellate court 1 or 2 or 3 times, depending on the case. Eventually, you'll get it ironed out in civil court or family court. It's criminal court. That's where you go to prison. Mm-hmm. That's where they extract your liberty. And I've always been upset by the fact that Republican judges just don't do their job and actually listen to the case and go, you know what? I'm going to grant a directed verdict because this is one of those times when the evidence just isn't there, and take it out of the hands of the jury, because we've seen, so many times when a jury convicts someone who's innocent, mm-hmm. and, how many innocent people have we fished out of prison who didn't commit the rape they were accused of, mm-hmm. Time and time and time again. Did the system protect any of those people? No.
Well, put their ass in prison.
For a crime they didn't commit.
Yes.
And that's where it really matters. And so if in this next election, Republican judges get swept back into office, I can only pray that they have the decency to actually listen to the evidence when it's presented in their courtroom, and that if a directed verdict needs to be issued, issue one. Grant it. There's nothing wrong with protecting the defendant when the defendant is innocent. Don't be ballless, gutless, spineless, and just, let the jury decide. Juries make mistakes all the time.
Yes, that's what you're supposed to do as a judge. You're supposed to look at if it doesn't meet it. You're supposed to be the judge.
Yeah,
you step in when it's time.
So for the judge in this case, I applaud you and I say, thank you for listening and thank you for doing your job. It's worthy of it. Mm-hmm. And so, I wish we had more judges who would listen to the evidence. And even though this guy was a police officer, and I know Democrats are caricatured as people who hate the cops. I mean, clearly not in this case. It was more important that the judge followed the Constitution and followed the rule of law and granted a directed verdict when one was needed.
Well, and I did read that the DA said that they kept emphasizing how the officer did not have his lights and siren on and was in a speeding was going over the speed limit, as if that matters.
No, of course not.
That's what I mean. They wanted, like I said before, redefine. Okay, there's definitions of what makes a police officer's response a police officer's response. There is a definition of what makes a murder a murder. And they want to, it reminds me of the people saying that, what was his name? The Kyle Rittenhouse.
Yeah.
What did he do? What did he do with that weapon? Took it across state lines. And if you say it enough, they act like it means something. He was speeding and didn't have his license siren on. And you say it enough, it makes people pissed off.
Right.
And because the police officer he's got to have his license siren on. No, he doesn't. And if you think so, then you're dumb. You're dumb. You're just dumb. You don't know the law.
Yeah. So it was District Judge Chuck Silverman.
Okay.
District Judge Chuck Silverman. So to Judge Silverman, I hope you get reelected.
I'd doff my chapeau if I had one on. But I don't.
So I really do, because we need judges like this. We really do. That we need judges that will listen to the evidence and allow the state to obviously have its opportunity to present the evidence. But if it doesn't meet the burden, we don't need to wait for the jury to mess it up. Mm-hmm. You can grant a directed verdict. So to Judge Chuck Silverman, I say thank you. I appreciate your work. And Anything else, Joseph?
Nope.
All right. So we'll see you in the next video. We appreciate you and talk to you later.